Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of our listeners and that are listening to this. I am Michelle Vincent, the principal of the Thorburn School of Astrology, and I'm joined by Thea de Beer, who works with me together at the Thorburn School of Astrology. Hi, Thea, how are you doing today?
Hello, Michelle. I'm good, thank you. Welcome back, viewers.
Right. So, first of all, before we begin, we are doing the lunar eclipse that is coming up in South Africa on the 18th of September. Again, the skies are very active and there's a lot happening. But before we go on to that, we'd really just like to ask all of our subscribers, and I'll say this at the end, or all of our viewers, is please subscribe to us and please like us and share us. Because the whole idea of the videos that we're putting out, or the YouTubes that we're putting out, is really and truly to bring astrology to non-astrologers. So we try really hard to not bring in too much of the jargon, although we do bring it in because we are a school, so it's natural that we just want to teach you a little bit more about this amazing subject. But by the same token, it's a case of really wanting to give you the benefit of what is happening in the environment, in the skies at the moment, how you can use it to your best advantage and not do meltdowns, which is just not what's required from us at the moment. So on that note, Thea, would you please like to explain the fact that this next full moon is going to be a lunar eclipse? So first of all, would you like to explain what an eclipse is?
Yes, I will do that. I just want to also ask our viewers to leave us a comment as well, because it helps the channel, and then to come with suggestions and, like, what would you like us to discuss or anything like that. We will listen and take it to our hearts.
Nice one.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Eclipse is basically, a lunar eclipse is when the earth moves in between the sun and the moon, and the sun is basically casting the earth's shadow onto the moon. So that is the scientific of an eclipse. Obviously, you get total eclipses, partial eclipses. There's a few different ones. This is going to be a partial eclipse, which means the moon is just a little bit out of the shadow of the earth, tiny little bit. An eclipse is a far more potent lunar cycle than just a normal full moon, because the effects of the eclipse last a bit longer, about approximately 6 months. And within that 6 months, obviously, we also still get a solar eclipse within that time, which actually then makes it almost a year, because then our 6 months starts all over again, once we have the solar eclipse. And then obviously we have to look at, there's lots of significant beginnings and endings that comes with eclipses. It's very significant, it's very potent. This Pisces eclipse will be the first of a series of eclipses on the Pisces and Virgo axis, which means this eclipse will actually just nudge us or prompt us to the energy that we might experience through this eclipse season on the Pisces and Virgo axis. With this eclipse, obviously we have to see on your natal chart, and that again is why it's so important to know your chart, is to know exactly which areas these eclipses going to happen. With the Pisces and the Virgo eclipses, again, our daily routines will be highlighted. Our physical health, our spiritual health, for being on the Pisces side of things. And but basically it is a full moon, like I said, with earth and sun and moon is aligned, which makes it so potent for us. And yeah, that's what I've got for now, I guess.
Okay, great. So Thea, if I'm hearing you correctly, is that because it is a lunar eclipse, first of all, full moons do usually bring out a lot of our emotions because the moon represents the feminine, it represents the emotions. So first of all, our viewers might be familiar with how they usually respond to a full moon. This becomes a more potent and pivotal full moon because it's going to be eclipsed. And what happens with an eclipse is that because the moon is shadowed, because it's the Earth's shadow that then falls on to the moon, it means that we might also get a little bit of the suppression of the feminine. Where we might not feel where the feminine energy is actually being eclipsed, it's being overridden perhaps by the Virgo sun of daily routine structure, etc., etc. So just remember during this time of the lunar eclipse and the fact that it's also a super moon, which means that in the moon's orbit, it's closer to the Earth than what it usually is. And obviously closer to the Earth means that it's got a more potent effect on the Earth. So this is a pivotal full moon, and it's very much up on the Pisces Virgo axis, as you've said, Thea, which means that one of the most important things that we need to worry about from now in the next 6 months is our health. Now, Virgo represents the body and the digestion and purification and daily routine, and Pisces represents the spiritual side of things. It is not structured, it is far more fluid and flowing and esoteric and nebulous than what the Virgo is. So I think that it's very much time for people to actually look at their health from different aspects and look at it from a purification point of view. Do you need a detox? Do you need a deworming? Do you need, all those things that you might be putting off? And this is not mainstream medicine that I'm talking here. This is more about what you intuitively know about yourself and what you need to actually be paying attention to. So you might want to not pay attention to it because of the fact that this energy is being eclipsed at this point in time by the practicality and all the rest of it. So my message to the viewers right now as a general message is worry about your health, but look at it from an intuitive point of view that you will only be able to access if you give yourself the time to be quiet and still. Any comments about that, Thea?
That is so true. And there's a Afrikaans saying that came to mind when you said that, and I'm sure there's an English one as well, is 'n gesonde liggaam, huisves 'n gesonde gees. So I think this lunar eclipse is such a good time to balance that. Like you said, to detox, to sit still with yourself and listen. And I feel when our bodies is healthy and aligned and whatever, and we do this spiritual thing as well, like even I thought to myself the other day, is like, I feel so like foggy in my brain, but I've realized I haven't sat down and meditated in such a long time, and I can feel the effects of it. I think this is a good lunar cycle to get that routine into place, and it's like you said in the beginning of the year, you did a talk about the practicality of spirituality. I think it was with the whole Saturn in Pisces.
Yes.
So I think this is a good time to fulfill that with this full moon. It's a good time to go within, balance the body, the mind, the soul.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, sorry, not to ponder this point too much, but you did say in terms of that saying is that when we properly look after the physical body, let's face it, guys, on a mental, emotional, and spiritual level, you just feel stronger, healthier, because the body really does. So it's not only that we feel better about ourselves, and it's not only the spiritual side, but it's also the mental side, because whatever's happening in this very dense medium of who we are, i.e. our body, as we look after that, so do we improve what is happening to us on all facets of our lives. So, and this is the time to do it. And what I would like to encourage people to do is that this is the beginning of of 6 months. It's also what's so beautiful, the beginning of spring. I mean, we just 13 days into, from the 1st of September in the southern hemisphere. So we at the first day of spring, which is always about new beginnings, which brings me to that point of what you said there, Thea. And that is that a lunar eclipse is very indicative of endings, and I'm using this word very deliberately in this order. It is very important in terms of endings and new beginnings. So some of our viewers might have felt themselves going through a lot of endings in the last month or so, where things that they find that things that they normally reacted to or responded to in a certain way, that it's just losing its energy. So I would also encourage people to very strongly look at what's ending in your life. And it doesn't have to be anything physical. It could be a belief system. It could be a value system. It could be an idea. It could be something that you've hankered after and held onto fiercely. And all of a sudden, it's like, okay, well, this is not serving me anymore. This is not serving me anymore. So it is a time of endings. And why that's important is that the beginnings can only start if you've done the ending. If you've still got residue from the ending, if you're still holding on to things, you haven't purified, detoxed, or cleared yourself completely.
Yeah.
And therefore, the new beginning has this perhaps stop-start element to it. What would you say, Thea?
I would say it's very true. There's a lot of things that might suggest in your life that this might come to an end or whatever. And I feel like act upon that, like you said. And luckily with this moon, and it's making a sextile to Uranus, and I feel that sextile makes us ready to embrace the change. Like we're ready for change. Things might still feel a bit up in the air, but it's eventually going to come to a culmination. Is that the right word? Like it will come together. And I mean, endings doesn't always necessarily have to be a bad thing. If something needs to end, it needs to end. And it can just, I don't know, prompt growth going forward from there.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just want to add over there that an ending usually comes with a level of sadness. Okay. It usually comes with the energy of sadness, not necessarily regret. It might come with a lot of grief. Okay. And the advice right now is allow yourself to go through it. Allow yourself to go through it. And what you just said about the sextile with Uranus, sextile is it's when the energies are talking to each other. So Uranus and the moon are talking to each other. it is in Taurus and Pisces, so it's very feminine energy. I think we need to release through our tears, because that's what what the feminine does. It is expressive in its emotion, so I think that is totally okay. But there's usually a mental element to a sextile, where mentally you begin to feel more positive about something. So use that mental benefit at this point in time as you let go of things that no longer serve you and embrace the new things. And yeah, just from a practical point of view, do you not feel, you are Pisces and I'm a Virgo? So I know that I am definitely feeling all of these things that we're talking about right now. As a Pisces, what are you feeling?
Michelle, Pisces feels very deeply. Very deeply. Yes. Yeah, I do feel a lot. I also do feel there's a lot up in the air and whatever, but at the moment I am just I'm sitting with a lot of that and feeling my way through. I'm not I don't feel that in all aspects I'm ready to express myself, because there's still like a sense of just wait a little bit. But luckily, with Mercury being out of the shadow phase even now, things are a little bit becoming more clearer, what to do, the next step, what not to do. There is a lot of things where I know how I used to feel about certain things and how I feel about it now, and acceptance.
Yeah.
Accepting a few things and whatever. Yeah. But yes, the feelings, it's there.
So Thea, what you're actually saying there is that I think we need to be patient with ourselves. And I know that this has come up as a theme in our previous videos as well. But somehow we think that, because we're experiencing something in our lives, that we're going to work through it and then it's going to be over. No, there is this whole thing. So the last time that we actually had the eclipse season happening in Virgo and Pisces was between the period of March 2016 and February 2017.
Yeah.
So because astrology is all about cycles and rhythms, but each time it's the spiral curve that we work with astrology, because although we have the cycles and the rhythms, everything else changes. So it's not a static system, but because it's cyclical and it comes back to that point, perhaps you would like to look back at what was happening in your life between March 2016 and February 2017 in those 11 months. And look at that, because that could give you some clue as regards what you might be working with right now. Now, I was horrified to find this out, because it just so happens for me, March 2016 to February 27 was terrible. It was shocking. And I'm going, oh no, I don't want to do any more of this. I've had enough. But then I sat down and I started, and you see, this is what you do. This is where the benefit and the beauty comes in. I sat down and I started thinking to myself, yes, I did go through a really rough time, especially almost at the midpoint of that section over there. I did go through a very, very rough time, but I also went through a great learning. Now, I've done that learning, which I can now apply to what might be happening in my life right now. How wonderful is that, Thea?
It is wonderful. Well, in my life, because the other eclipse that also happened over these axes was in 1997. And looking at my own life, and even with Saturn, with the Saturn transits happening over my my Sun, my Mercury, my Venus, 1997 it was the same aspect. It was the same lunar eclipse, the same eclipse season and everything. And I can definitely see some of those themes reoccurring in my life at the moment.
Yes.
Like 30, well, between 28 to 30 years
yes.
later, I can still see. And it's interesting, like you said, Michelle, it's the spiral. So at the end of the day, we can choose, are we going to spiral up or are we going to spiral down? And things like this, like for me personally, the Saturn transit and these eclipses happening on the same axis back then shows me, did I spiral up or did I spiral down?
Can I ask you a question here? Do
Yeah.
you think it's possible for us to be spiraling down at this point in time, in general? If we look at everything that's happening in the heavens, okay, together with where we've come to as humanity in terms of our consciousness, what do you think is the likelihood of us spiraling downwards?
I think the likelihood of people, and I'm not going to say us, I'm going to say people spiraling downwards, is the people not listening to their bodies, the people that not listening to the messages coming from universe, God, whatever. I think those are the people that will spiral down, the people that resist change, that just wants everything to be a certain way. Not going with the flow. So yes, I do think that you can spiral down. I don't think it can be a very comfortable spot, because I think eventually you will feel like a pimple that's being squeezed. So it's not going to be comfortable. So I would say that if you feel like that at the moment and nothing wants to work out for you, maybe just see how you respond to things coming your way. How's your attitude towards things? Are you always moaning and bitching about things? Is everything always happening to you and this and that? Or is it happening for you? Do you see it as an opportunity or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yes, I do feel you can spiral down still.
Okay. So it's interesting that you say that, because at this point in time, I think we're being forced to actually spiral upwards. And the reason
that's a
why,
pimple.
yeah, exactly. And I think you see, by and large, we do resist change. I mean, by and large, we do resist change. And as much as we think we're adventurous and all the rest of it, I think that when we've got a status quo, we like to keep the status quo because it enables us to make sense of the world that we live in. Okay. And everything that I'm reading in the planets right now is about forcing us out of that comfort zone. It is so much forcing us out of that comfort zone. So I think that more and more and more of people are getting to resisting change and getting to that point where there's the pimple. And the pimple, then, you know what a blind pimple is like, Thea? It starts hurting, but it's all underneath the surface, and it feels like this huge, big lump. Nobody else can see it, but it's there, and it's irritating. And you start prodding it, and you start pushing at it, and nothing happens, and nothing happens. And sometimes you prod at it, and it brings tears to your eyes, and it takes your breath away because there's so much pain in trying to get this toxicity out of you, and that can carry on for days. But eventually something happens where the toxicity does come out, and that you are then, there's relief thereafter. And I just think that was a beautiful analogy, because for me, right now, more and more people are getting to that soul blind pimple stage. And when it's there, you're gonna prod. You're gonna prod, and you go. I know the books say don't touch it, but
sure.
it's not what we do. It's not what we do. So we prod and all the rest of it. And I think that that release then brings us into an upward spiral. But at the end of the day, it's got to be about choice, doesn't it? You choose whether you want to go up or whether you want to go down.
That's true.
Okay. So I just think that for me also, as much as we're looking at the healing of this lunar eclipse, I think we also need to look at the fact that this might be a very creative time for us as well. So this next 6 months might be about new creations. It might be about your creativity. So maybe it's the time to actually, and I'm shocked at me saying this because I'm so bad at this, but maybe it's time to actually do that vision board, because Mercury is out of retrograde now and out of the shadow period, and we're becoming clearer on a mental level. I know that one of the reasons that I haven't been able to do a vision board on any level in my imagination, physically or whatever, is because I haven't been clear on what I want.
Yeah.
And if you're not clear on what you want, maybe you are becoming clearer on what type of world you want to create, and it becomes easier to put a vision board together. What do you think of that idea, Thea?
I think it's a very good idea. And do you do any creative pursuit during this time, especially with all the emotions, because it is a very emotional moon. Let's face it, it is Pisces. And it is a creative sign, as well as this moon conjunct with Neptune, which makes it even more creative. So it is a very good time to write your, to journal, but to do it like creatively, like in a little story format, maybe.
Yes.
If something breaks your heart, draw a picture. That's what I do. I draw when I'm feeling a lot inside, and that's why I take my emotions. Everything goes in there. So there's a lot of detail also in there, because my 5th house is Virgo. So I can go like really technical. But yeah, I feel even a painting class, do those little stones where you just dot them. Those painting stones or whatever. But yeah, I feel being creative will definitely relieve some of that intense emotions.
Nice one, Thea. And dance. I mean, when we're looking at Pisces, there's an invitation under this lunar eclipse to go and dance under the moon, and dancing is also just such a beautifully feminine, flowing type of energy. So all of those things will really bring you, I want to say the words, bring you up to speed with yourself. What does that mean? But anyway, we'll leave it over there. And I think because, again, we're working on this Virgo Pisces axis, I think what we want to remember right now is that we are spiritual beings. So yes, the human being is there, but for right now, perhaps we need to start realizing that we are so much more than just a human physical being, that we are spiritual beings, and that we are co-creators, and that we are part of this oneness. So I know that was a theme that we brought in with the new moon. So I just want to remind people of that.
Yeah, well, obviously this full moon is the culmination of the new moon.
Yes.
So with that, what you said there is like, people normally say we are humans having a spiritual experience, but I feel we need to flip it now. We are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Yes. And to be quite honest with you, Thea, that is the space that I want to start living in more and more and more. is that as a spiritual being, I'm having a human experience. And this human experience is very interesting, I might just tell you.
Yeah, and like, what does it mean to be a human experience? If we just spirit, we cannot create. We
Exactly.
cannot co-create. With this body of us and being in this 3D world, we are co-creators with the creator.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
that's my own personal opinion. I don't want to push my opinions on people, but I also just want to say that with this eclipse, we still don't have the full picture because of the shadow. It's temporary. So whatever, like that heightened emotions and whatever, is just, before you act on it, is to sit with it.
Yes, yes.
First. Like, don't go and just blur all your emotions out. I don't think people are actually ready for everyone's emotions at this moment, because I feel that everyone is going through something at the moment, which is very emotional. But I also feel like people don't really share at this stage, like everyone is, to me personally, it feels like people are in their own little bubbles, dealing with their own little things, but there's things brewing,
Yeah.
Definitely things brewing.
I'm laughing because I think I'm oversharing. Because I'm just one of those people, I have to get it out. So
but I mean, like you are, there is definitely people that's sharing, trust me, but there's also people that's just quiet.
Agree. Yeah.
That's just quiet, and but you can see they're busy, you know.
Yeah. So Thea, based on what you've just said about the emotions, would you like to speak about the fact that Mars has just gone into Cancer? And because, I mean, we know that Mars is the planet of action, and we know that Cancer is the sign of emotions, the moon, and whatever, and it's not really that comfortable. So, in light of the emotions and in light of the warnings that we can give people about the Mars going into Cancer, what can you say about that?
Well, first of all, I would like to say be careful for explosive emotions. But with Mars being in Cancer, sometimes I feel that you tend to be passive as well. There can be some passiveness where you don't really action. It's like you
Passive aggressive.
Well, yeah. Well, I've got Mars natally in Cancer station to go direct. So my Mars, trust me, I will fight for what I care for and who's important to me and my family. You're not gonna, but otherwise I'm like, Laxie Daisy, don't come make moeilikheid here in front of my house. You're gonna feel me.
Okay. And
but normally,
that's the point, Asia, is that I think people need to be aware of the fact that with Mars going into Cancer, so first of all, we have the heightened emotions about the fact that we have a lunar eclipse. The moon is in Pisces, very, very emotional, spiritual sign. With Mars going into Cancer, the emotions are heightened, the emotions towards family, and so the emotions of the protectiveness, the nurturing, the protectiveness of family, that which is mine, my belongings, my family, etc., could be a little bit excessive at this point in time. And you could find yourself either being overprotective and over emotional about family, or otherwise passive aggressive, where you feel that family might be hurting you and that you're not responding to it and all the rest of it. I think we need to be hyper aware of hostile emotions within ourselves, within others, and really and truly thinking before reacting to it. Because let's face it, guys, when you react to something and you use harsh words, you can never retract them. They said, they're in the open. And we don't know what the other person necessarily does with this. So this is not about keeping stuff within. This is not about sweeping stuff underneath the carpet and pretending that it doesn't exist. This is about sitting with the emotion. And you said something a little while ago, Thea. I can't exactly remember what you said. Is that if we're taking that analogy of the emotions coming up, remember you've got 6 months. Is that you don't have to do anything now. And if you take it, we are in September, October, November, December, January, February. So we're looking about February, March. Look at the problem of what is bringing up your emotions for you at the moment. Work through it, but maybe you only start taking the action of it more towards the beginning 3 months of next year. So it's not about sweeping it under the carpet, as I've said. It's not about ignoring it. It's about actively working at it and growing. I mean, basically, we've got the little seedling that we planted in the new moon under Virgo, purification, and being of service, and we growing this little, but the growth needs nurturing, and you're the seedling, you're growing in this new energy. So be patient, and remember you've got time to actually let things settle, and only when you are feeling objective, the Virgo side of things, when you're feeling more objective and not so emotional, should you actually then perhaps do anything about what that is disturbing you.
Yeah, and I feel like it's a good time to, like you said, take note of your emotions, sit with it, feel with it, experience it, because Mars is going retrograde in December, I think. And then it's going to retrograde back into Cancer.
Yes.
And then we get to review a whole lot of things again within the Cancer axis.
Actually, so what it does is that Mars will move up to 6 degrees of Leo. So guys, Cancerians and some Leos, just be very aware of what might be happening for you right now. It then's going to go retrograde round about the 6th of December. No, it goes retrograde until the 6th of December. No, it moves retrograde on the 6th of December, and then it goes direct on the 24th of February. So again, we've got time to review things, and it's the Cancerian. And you know what? I'm just going to use this as an example here, or what's coming up for me as Mars in Cancer in retrograde, is that I've had to do a major rethink of family. I've really, and the belief system of blood is thicker than water. What does family mean to you? What is family, and all the rest of it? And I'm definitely having to rethink and review this whole thing at the moment. So when it comes up with family at the moment, I'm being very careful. I'm treading softly.
Yes. And you know what, it almost, this whole thing with Mars almost feel like it almost takes on the same theme as what Mercury did. For Mercury was in Leo and it retrograded back into Virgo, where we were like looking at our own sovereignty, you know. So I feel like we're going to kind of have that same thing with Mars going into Leo and then retrograding back, where we get to review. I still feel like the theme for the year is our own sovereignty.
Yes.
You know, and what does it mean for you as a person?
Yeah, I think that's exactly what our theme is. It's about actually growing in our own sovereignty so that we can become the individual with all our uniqueness as what we were always meant to be, but at the same time be able to be part of the community as we grow into the future, and as we grow into Pluto going into Aquarius, which is all about the community, the humanity, and all the rest of it. But you will lose yourself in the humanity. You will lose yourself in the hype and in the false media and in the the illusion and the different matrices if you do not work on your own self-sovereignty. Very important. I agree with you 100% on that one there.
Yeah. And I feel the closer you keep the attention to you and your closer surroundings, the less chaotic it will be for you.
Yes, 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 very much so. So you mentioned that this full moon is also going to be doing a square to Jupiter. So would you then say that the energies are going to be amplified? What would you say about that?
I would say mood swings. Be careful for mood swings.
Okay,
You know,
nice
like
one
moment like this, one moment like that. And to impulsively, be careful to not impulsively react to something that like you feel, and do not just maybe say something out of, and I want to also just warn people that do not overindulge in alcohol, drugs, anything like that at this stage, because the possibility is very great, especially also with the conjunction to Neptune. I mean, all of that happens, and this Jupiter can just amplify. And because of it's a square, I feel like outside influences might trigger your emotions and want you to just impulsively do something about it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, but also it can be very optimistic, you know, but with that might come overconfidence, which might leave you a little bit embarrassed, you know, so just like watch for impulsiveness.
Okay. So in actual fact, there's a T square with that Jupiter. So that Jupiter does form a T square with the sun and the moon, because remember the sun and the moon are going to be opposition to each other.
Oh,
and
yes,
the
of
moon
course.
is actually then square, well, they're both then square to the Jupiter. So you might want to speak up because it's in Gemini, and Gemini does represent social media. I'm going to say to viewers, please be very careful about what it is that you want to rant and rave on social media. In fact, don't rant and rave on social media. Okay,
Yes.
Don't speak out. Be very clear about what it is that you want to say. So there's a caution over here. There's a cautionary warning to just say, be clear about what you say, just be a little bit more careful. Be very careful about being too judgmental, about being too opinionated. Remember, your point of view is only from your perspective in terms of what you understand from your how you've been raised, your environment, your circumstances, your childhood, etc., etc. So
Yeah.
be careful about being too opinionated and try to be a lot more objective. Now, the Virgo will allow you, and the Uranus will also allow you to actually be that little bit more objective. But I think we also need to remember, you touched on the moon being conjunct the Neptune. We must just be aware of water situations with this lunar eclipse and maybe in the next 6 months, where we also want to be, so just be careful about the water that you drink. Make sure that your water is clear and all the rest of it. We might see a lot more of activity in terms of things like flooding or stuff to do with the seas and so on and so forth. So to just be aware of that. But remember, when we ingest water, we ingesting life into our system. So maybe it would be a nice thing or a nice tool to remember that. Remember to drink water with love and with happiness and with hope and with peace and all the rest of it.
Yeah, because we all know if you speak to water, that the water's molecule structure actually changes.
Yes.
So a lot of times when I take water, especially if I drink water out of the tap, when we don't because we buy our bottled water, because
Yes.
the tap water, then I will like open the tap and like, bless this water I'm about to drink, and then I drink the water.
Nice one. Yeah, that's a good. I didn't think of that one, and so I usually go thirsty rather than drink water out of a tap. I think the other thing that we just need to talk about quickly, and this is a more favorable type of thing, because we can see the theme. We need to be a little bit more careful. We're probably sitting with a lot of emotional stuff. We need to just be kind to ourselves, but we are being helped by a grand trine that is being formed between the sun. So because the sun is part of, very instrumental in a lunar eclipse. So between the sun, Uranus, and Pluto, we've got a grand trine. Now, what a grand trine means for the viewer in Earth, we've got a grand trine in Earth, okay? So what a grand trine means is that it's fortuitous. This is we're taking the blue pill. It's fortuitous. It brings hope. It brings energy. It brings strength to us in the Earth element. So it's practical. It's realistic. It has to do with our agriculture. It has to do with our food. It has to do with those type of earthly things. So use the earth, go out into nature, ground yourself. I know that we are repeating ourselves over here, but can you see the message? The one message is to ground, and the other one is to go rise up into spirituality. Ground, rise up into spirituality. Ground.
Very much the Virgo Pisces axis.
And again, it's being repeated here. So with this grand trine, we're definitely being given the support of the sun in Virgo. Look at your daily routine, look at your daily structure, look after your health, look after your physical body. We're definitely bringing, we've got the mental element coming in from the Taurus, which is about, think about growing your own herbs, or your the soil around you. Maybe start collecting your eggshells, because eggshells in the soil, no matter where you are, is very good. It brings in all sorts of minerals for that. And the Pluto in Capricorn is really saying to us, as much as Capricorn represents the corporate and the governments and the structures, for us on a personal level, I mean, not everybody who's a Capricorn is a government employee type of thing.
No.
So Capricorn brings organization. Capricorn is all about practical organization of your life. And you know what? When I think of Capricorn, this is what I want to say. There's a frugality with Capricorn. Capricorn doesn't want excess. Give me that which is needed. Give me that which can be useful and purposeful, and helps me to grow. That's what a Capricorn wants to know. Okay, it doesn't want to be frivolous and all the rest of it. So I think let's use this grand trine to ground ourselves in the emotions of what we are feeling.
Interesting to that, Michelle. It is our planting week. This is the week we plant beans, we plant pumpkins, and so it's very earthy. And I've read that, I don't know, I don't go by those moons where people say it's a harvest moon, it's a pink moon, it's a strawberry moon, whatever, because that doesn't work in South Africa, in the Southern Hemisphere, because this is now the harvest moon. No, this is the Southern Hemisphere fertile moon.
Yes.
So we need to move away from those things, or we need to start working with the Southern Hemisphere and not the Northern Hemisphere when it comes to those things, like the moon and the seasons.
Yes.
Yeah. So yes, it's very earthy. So which means we are supported. I mean, Earth supports us.
Yes.
We are supported in all this emotional turmoil or whatever it is that we are going through.
Lady Gaia is amazing. So let's work with that. So there, in closing, What message would you, or how from your point of view, how would you like to sum this up, and what message would you like to leave for the viewers?
I would like to just sum it up, like really be gentle with yourself. I know we've been saying this but this is a time we really need to be gentle with ourselves, self-care, self-nurturing, understanding ourselves and our emotions. I feel like if you don't understand your emotions and you're not aligned, that this might be a very mental, there might be a lot of like mental health issues coming up for you. But I feel like sit with nature. It's a good thing actually to have a water fountain with some nature, like bringing the earth and the water. But yeah, basically I would just say, like, be gentle and patient with yourself. I feel like if you're going to treat yourself that way, it's almost like the Bible verse, love your neighbor as you love yourself. I will feel like if you nurture yourself, you would be able to carry it to the people around you.
Okay, brilliant. So I think in closing, what I'd like to say to the viewers, this is definitely all about the lunar eclipse. The lunar eclipse is happening on the 18th. It's happening at 25 degrees. Oh, I didn't even bring the chart up. It's happening at 25 degrees 40 minutes, where the sun will be at 25 degrees 40 minutes of Virgo and the moon will be at 25 degrees 40 minutes of Pisces. It actually is a pivotal time in your life. It's a pivotal time of endings and new beginnings. And it's a pivotal time that is actually setting in motion something for you in the next 6 months. And it's got 6 months to actually play itself out. So be patient. Don't be judgmental. Use Thea's advice about being gentle with yourself, and giving yourself the space that you need to. And in order to understand this lunar eclipse, maybe just go back and look at what was happening in your life from March 2016 to February 2017 in those 11 months, and look to see whether it was a difficult time or it was an easy time. Remember, it's not the same situation, and you're not the same person that you were that time. But because we work with cycles and rhythms, there might be things where it will show you how you've grown, matured, changed, and all of that growth and change is about you becoming more self-sovereign. So we come back to that whole thing of self-sovereignty, and I will encourage you, the viewer, to continue on that journey. And on that note, I wish you a very, very, very happy lunar eclipse, and dance under the moon.
Yeah. Make a fire and dance.
Make a fire and dance. It's been lovely being with you guys. Please like us and share us if you feel so inclined. We love you, and we'll see you again in a week's time. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.